The story begins in a place littered with the corpses of monsters. Amidst the carnage, a girl stood in awe of Qin Feng, who, despite enduring a hundredfold accelerated aging effect, had still managed to clear the ancient god's ruins. However, she soon informed Qin Feng that she would be taking the divine artifact known as the Eye of Judgment for herself. Severely injured, Qin Feng looked at her in disbelief and asked why she would betray him now, especially when he was her brother. The girl, whose name was Qin Xiaoyu, coldly replied that Qin Feng was nothing more than an adopted child her parents had taken in. Suddenly, a man named Song Fei appeared and remarked to Qin Xiaoyu how useful Qin Feng had been. Song Fei admitted that without Qin Feng, obtaining the divine artifact would have been impossible. To completely drain Qin Feng's remaining lifespan in a single strike, he had gone to great lengths to acquire the soul-stealing blade, now embedded in Qin Feng's body. Qin Feng, struggling to stay conscious, reminded Qin Xiaoyu that he had raised her after their parents passed away, supported her through school, and risked his life countless times for her after the game descended upon their world. But Xiaoyu responded coldly, saying that after their parents died, Qin Feng had only tried to control her life, interfering, bossing her around, never letting her be free. She added that while she and Song Fei once needed his protection, now that they possessed the divine artifact, Qin Feng had lost all value. As Song Fei lunged forward to deliver the final blow, Qin Feng vowed that even in death, he would never let them get away with their betrayal. A moment later, Song Fei's sword struck true, ending Qin Feng's life. In the year 2025, the God-forsaken game descended upon the world. From that day forward, anyone who fell asleep would be forcibly pulled into its nightmarish realm. In this brutal game, the only currency was lifespan. Death would drain it away, while slaying monsters would replenish it. Players could spend their lifespan to bring in-game abilities into the real world. The strongest among them could tear tanks apart with their bare hands, cleave through aircraft with a single swing of a sword, and even withstand nuclear blasts with nothing but their own bodies. From that moment on, the world changed irreversibly. Chaos spread like wildfire. Amidst the madness, Feng struggled to survive with his sister, enduring countless hardships. Against all odds, he rose through the ranks, eventually securing a place among the world's top 100 powerhouses. After braving endless dangers, he finally conquered the ancient god's ruins and obtained the divine artifact, Eye of Judgment. At last, he had earned the qualifications to stand at the peak. But no one could have predicted the price of his success. Betrayed by the only family he had left, all of Feng's efforts seemed to unravel in an instant. Everything he had done, every sacrifice, every battle, amounted to nothing more than interference. All his struggles had merely paved the way for someone else's triumph. Feng refused to accept such an ending. With his dying breath, he vowed, if he could live again, he would fight only for himself. Then, in the very moment his life ended, he awoke, healthy, breathing, alive. Stunned, he looked around and realized he was back in the real world. Not only was he alive, but the calendar showed it was the year 2025. Could it be? Had he truly been reborn? Returned to the very day the God-forsaken game first descended? As events unfolded, Xiaoyu arrived abruptly, kicking the door open. She shouted at Feng, demanding to know why he hadn't answered her calls. Xiaoyu explained that she had only gone to support Song Fei and accused Feng of not understanding how important it was for her to be there for him. Before the game began, Song Fei had been a highly popular idol, and Xiaoyu had been one of his most devoted fans. However, Song Fei was a scoundrel who had secretly deceived many female fans, exploiting them both financially and physically. To protect Xiaoyu from being taken advantage of, Feng had always forbidden her from associating with him. Feng never imagined that, in the end, he would be blamed for interfering in her life. While Xiaoyu was accusing Feng of causing Song Fei's removal from the leaderboard, Feng, overwhelmed with frustration, struck her across the face. With a cold and serious expression, he warned her that if she kept barking, he would silence her himself. He then explained that the money in question had been left by their parents. Despite all the hardships he had endured over the years, he had never touched a single cent. Throwing the card at her, he told her he was returning everything to her that day. For the sake of their parents, he declared, he would not lower himself to her level, and from that moment on, he no longer had a sister. In his past life, Feng had missed countless opportunities for the sake of protecting Qin Xiaoyu. Secret treasures, dangerous dungeons, and countless chances for advancement, all sacrificed in her name. He often wondered how far he could have gone without that burden holding him back. This time, things would be different. Armed with the knowledge and experience from his previous life, Feng resolved to stay one step ahead of everyone else. Xiaoyu was on her own now. And as for Song Fei, Feng vowed to take his head with his own hands. Feng stepped into the career choice hall, memories from his past life flooding his mind. Back then, it had taken him several hours to finalize his profession. He had chosen the warrior class, strong, durable, and ideal for protecting Xiaoyu. But that was no longer his path. The warrior wasn't weak, but it no longer suited him. Without the burden of Xiaoyu, he could now progress much faster on his own. For solo clearing, agility and reaction time were paramount. This time, Feng chose the assassin class. As soon as he confirmed his choice, a system notification appeared, catching him off guard. Divine Artifact, Eye of Judgment, successfully bound. The artifact activated immediately. With its unique passive ability, Authority of Judgment, Feng would automatically receive the highest-ranked profession and talent upon entering the Forsaken game. Feng mused that as long as the artifact acknowledged its rightful master, it would be useless in anyone else's hands, even if stolen. Perhaps this mysterious artifact was the reason he had been reborn in the first place. Feng was stunned as he watched shadows begin to merge with his body, swirling around him like living mist. It was a phenomenon he had never seen before. Moments later, the specialization process completed, and the system issued a new notification. Hidden Profession unlocked, Shadow. It was the highest-tier hidden profession available to assassins, rare, deadly, and nearly impossible to obtain. Every class had a minute chance of unlocking a hidden, more powerful evolution, but the Authority of Judgment made that chance an absolute certainty. The Authority of Judgment was no ordinary power. It was the most ancient and genuine primal authority in existence, something that transcended rules, defied logic, and surpassed even the universal laws of order and chaos. While Feng couldn't actively wield this authority yet due to his lack of divinity, its passive effects were already in motion. In Feng's previous life, it wasn't until the 7th year after the God-forsaken game descended that a strong player finally managed to leave the God's abandoned realm and reach the realm of order. Only then did humanity learn about the existence of order's power. Yet even years later, no one ever obtained it. Feng never expected that at the very start of his journey, he would already possess the primal authority, a power that surpasses both order and rules. As long as he can escape the God's abandoned realm and reach the realm of order to obtain divinity, he can activate this authority. Upon completing the profession selection, the system prompted Feng to enter his game alias. Since his profession was born from the shadows, he chose the name Shadow. After that, he entered the God's abandoned realm, a ruined land teeming with monsters, always ready to steal your lifespan. To earn tradable lifespan, players must leave town and slay monsters. But if you die in the game, you lose half your lifespan. Feng's character appeared in an area called Shell Town, a safe zone where no monsters spawn and players cannot attack each other. He was surprised to see that so many people had already been pulled into the game. Moments later, a group suddenly appeared in front of him. They had died to monsters and were teleported back to town. Complaining that even a weak level 1 crawler was too strong, they turned to their sister, Lizzie, asking what they should do next. Shadow glanced at Lizzie and noticed she looked like a hidden class too. Sensing the same about him, Lizzie approached and asked if he wanted to team up, explaining how dangerous the monsters outside were. But Shadow simply replied, "No need." He turned his back on them, prompting Lizzie and her comrades to mock him for acting aloof. They accused him of pretending to be a pro when even the 5 of them couldn't handle the monsters, and he thought he could do it alone? Irritated, Lizzie checked Feng's alias, annoyed by his attitude. She then told her comrades they should follow him to see what skills he had. Maybe they'd learn something about the monsters, or maybe they'd just get to watch Shadow die. While walking toward the town's exit, Feng noticed someone following him. He immediately activated his ability and vanished without a trace. Unable to see him anymore, Lizzie and her comrades gave up and returned to town, deciding to focus on improving themselves instead. Feng was impressed by his extraordinary class. A normal assassin's stealth at this level would be easy to detect, but the Shadow class had unique stealth mastery, making him virtually invisible in the early game. All players started with base stats of 10, with different classes granting bonus attributes. Feng's Shadow class, however, provided boosts to every stat, most notably, an impressive +8 to agility. He still had 5 attribute points left, which he allocated entirely to agility, believing that speed was the key to defeating monsters without taking damage. Moments later, Feng spotted a level 1 crawler ahead. He noticed it was still absorbing lifespan and figured this must be the one that wiped out the 4-player party. When monsters kill players, they absorb their lifespan, and if they gather enough, they can evolve. A group of players might struggle to kill this crawler, but with Shadow's speed and abilities, it couldn't even react before being eliminated in a single strike. Feng hadn't expected a one-shot kill and was amazed to discover that his backstab skill doubled the damage when the attack came from outside the enemy's field of vision. He recalled how, back when he played as a warrior, even a critical hit barely dealt 40 damage. Killing a crawler used to be a long, dangerous battle. But this time, he earned 3 days of tradable lifespan from a single kill, bringing his total non-tradable lifespan to 54 years and 155 days. Suddenly, Eye of Judgment's authority activated, and the system congratulated Feng for obtaining the talent Infinite Evolution. When killing monsters solo, he now had a chance to earn evolution points to upgrade skills. Feng had never heard of anything like it in his past life. Back then, no matter what gear or skill books dropped, their grade was fixed and couldn't be improved. Now, after upgrading his shadow skills, he could remain invisible for 32 seconds, and even a full HP crawler wouldn't survive a single strike. Meanwhile, an arrogant guy saw Feng take down the monster solo. Laughing, he mocked that the game was easy, while the girl with him admired his physique, thinking he could probably take on 10 people at once. Suddenly, Feng noticed a monster lurking above them. As the arrogant guy asked Feng if he needed help, Feng didn't respond. He simply took a step back and vanished. The guy laughed, assuming Feng had been intimidated by his muscles. To their shock, a monster called Nurturer dropped down and instantly eliminated them. The Nurturer was a beginner boss, far beyond what any rookie could handle, and it commanded a swarm of small spiders. Seeing this as the perfect opportunity to test his upgraded skills, Feng dashed forward and struck one of the Nurturer's eyes with his dagger. After landing the hit, he quickly retreated and vanished again using Shadow Sneak. Feng was stunned. The blow to the monster's weak point had dealt over 300 damage. Enraged by the pain, the Nurturer began attacking wildly, trying to locate Feng. Knowing he couldn't rush in recklessly, Feng picked up a rock and threw it at the monster's weak spot. As he expected, his main damage output came from stealth-based ambush bonuses and class skill enhancements, so even a thrown rock dealt solid damage. All he had to do was wait for Shadow Sneak to come off cooldown, then throw another rock. The throw would trigger ambush strike, backstab, and weak point bonuses. Then activate Shadow Sneak again. Stay hidden, wait for the cooldown, and strike again. Moments later in Shelltown, an alert announced a leaderboard update. The player's Shadow had slain Nurturer, a bronze tier boss, and became the first to reach level 2. Players were in disbelief. Some had already died twice to regular mobs, and someone had just soloed a boss? Lizzie and her comrades couldn't believe it either. They still struggled against normal monsters as a team and assumed it must be some kind of system error. Upon killing the giant spider, Feng received valuable rewards, including a skill book, Greedy Hand. The skill significantly boosted loot acquisition. In the late game, killing powerful bosses would have a 20% chance of yielding extra drops. Feng remembered a player from his past life, an average fighter in the Godslayer Guild, who became one of the most sought-after members simply because he had this skill. He even had a personal bodyguard escorting him at all times. Suddenly, Feng had an idea. The activation rate was only 20%. But if he combined it with his unlimited evolution talent, could he continuously enhance both the drop rate and loot quantity? Meanwhile, at school, Xiaoyu's friend asked if she was going to call and apologize to her brother. Xiaoyu replied that he should be the one to apologize to her. After all, they had almost missed the entrance time yesterday because of him. When they arrived at their classroom, they noticed a large crowd gathered. It turned out that a guy named Zhang Wei had suddenly turned semi-transparent right after saying he wanted to take a nap. They soon learned this wasn't an isolated case, it was all over the internet. People around the world were experiencing the same strange phenomenon. Xiaoyu's friend quickly took out her phone to warn her parents and urged Xiaoyu to call her brother too. But Xiaoyu scoffed and said it would be better if her brother just dropped dead. On the other side, Feng successfully evolved Greedy Hand, increasing its effect to a 20% to 70% chance of obtaining an extra piece of loot when looting enemies. Upon activating the skill, he also gained 2 evolution points. To evolve Greedy Hand to a guaranteed 100% drop rate, he would need 3 points. Feng assumed that by now, the world's governments had likely caught on to the situation, and more people would soon flood into the game. With that in mind, he decided to accelerate his progress. It wouldn't be long before people realized that skills and equipment from the game could be extracted into the real world. All it required were 2 conditions: reaching level 10 and having enough tradable lifespan. Not far away, Feng heard voices and went to investigate. He soon came across a group of players battling a level 2 sprint predator, a bronze-grade monster. Among them, he recognized one of the players, Wang Meng. It was said that when Wang Meng first entered the game, he assembled an entire team of hidden class players. All 6 of them were users of rare hidden professions. Wang Meng's own class, Holy Shield Warrior, had double the base stats of a regular warrior and came with an innate invincibility skill. The others included Mage class hidden profession, Prophet, deals double the spell damage of a standard mage and comes with a built-in prophetic fireball. Archer class hidden profession, Sharp-eyed shooter, has twice the stats of a normal archer and starts with a rapid shot skill. Priest class hidden profession, Oracle priest, possesses double the healing power of a regular priest and comes with a group healing skill. But even with their well-composed team, the boss was too fast, and their ranged attacks kept missing. Feng knew that in the wild, if a battle dragged on too long, other monsters would be drawn to the fight. One hidden class player tried to shield Wang Meng from the monsters closing in from behind, but his sword couldn't penetrate their high defense. The creatures then spat slimy liquid from their mouths, binding the players to the ground and severely reducing their movement speed. When one of the monsters lunged at the mage, Feng intervened, cleanly slicing off the monster's head in a single strike. The team was stunned. A corruptor had been one-shotted. Even level 1 crawlers normally took a full party around 10 seconds to bring down, but this was a level 2 corruptor, instantly eliminated. Wang Meng and his team saw who made the attack and silently hoped this mysterious player was on their side. With only the sprint predator left, Feng received rewards for slaying the corruptors, one of which was the venom dart skill, a mid-range poison damage ability. Without hesitation, Feng evolved it immediately. Meanwhile, as Wang Meng fought the sprint predator, he was struck by the monster and could only urge his teammates to retreat. But suddenly, a flying dagger pierced the monster's head. The strike wiped out half the boss's HP in an instant, shocking everyone. The venom from the attack dealt 50% continuous damage per second for 5 seconds, killing the monster completely. Since Feng dealt over 90% of the total damage, the loot rightfully belonged to him, and he received another batch of rewards. With stealth, Feng could remain invisible and throw darts endlessly. On the other hand, Wang Meng was stunned by the sheer damage and couldn't help but wonder if the attacker was even human. Once the loot light disappeared, Wang Meng stood up and looked around, hoping to thank whoever had saved them. Then, they heard a voice. Don't trust people too easily in the wild. Taking the advice to heart, Wang Meng and his team offered their thanks and left the area. Feng thought Wang Meng seemed dependable, and with the backing of Daxia's government, he likely had access to plenty of resources. Feng needed a stable sales channel and considered selling his unused loot to Wang Meng. After equipping his new rewards, Feng continued onward, deciding that once his bag was full, he'd return to town and trade everything for lifespan. This time, his growth was 100 times faster than in his previous life, and soon, he would be coming for Song Fei. Elsewhere, another group of players encountered corruptors, and as time passed, more and more monsters began to swarm them. Just as they decided to retreat, a massive, unknown monster appeared and unleashed multiple attacks, wiping out the entire group. The defeated players were then teleported back to town. To exit the game, players needed to reach level 3. Worried, they wondered how they were going to manage that. Some suggested gathering more people, but one of them disagreed, saying he had once seen a group of 40 players attract something called a damned, which wiped out over 30 of them with a single ability. If they couldn't reach level 3, they would be trapped in the game forever. They feared that if they couldn't log out, their bodies in the real world would eventually starve to death. Lily and her team had already died 3 times and had less than 10 years of tradable lifespan left. Checking the leaderboard, Lily noticed that the player named Shadow was leveling up rapidly. She assumed he must know some method to progress quickly. Determined, she decided they needed to find a way to convince Shadow to help them reach level 3. Lily then told her teammates to spread the word. If Shadow helped get them to level 3 and back to reality, she would give him 10 million in cash. Meanwhile, Shadow continued farming until he had gathered enough evolution points. He then spent 5 points to evolve Hand of Avarice from Platinum to Jade. This assassin skill could be used on monster corpses to obtain an extra loot drop, with a 20% chance to increase the item's rarity by 1 level. Shadow wondered, if he kept evolving the skill, could the success rate reach 100% or even 200%? Moments later, he spotted the Curse Master, a bronze-tier boss monster that appeared to be consuming life force to evolve into a silver-tier boss. Checking his inventory, Shadow realized it was full. Even if he killed the boss, he wouldn't be able to pick up the loot. So, he marked the location on his map. Boss evolution takes time, so his plan was simple. Clear out his inventory first, then return. Shadow returned to town and opened a market stall. He sat down and began selling equipment and skills, setting a limited window of 10 minutes. Players in the town noticed him and were shocked to realize that he was Shadow, the #1 player on the leaderboard. They couldn't see his face, as he had enabled the face concealment feature. Since in-game appearances match real-life looks, they figured he wanted to remain mysterious. A woman approached Shadow and asked for the price of a spell. Shadow replied that it cost 100 days of tradable lifespan. He recognized her as Grey Rose, currently ranked number 11 in Shelltown. She asked if he could lower the price, but Shadow explained that 100 days was already a bargain. Turning to her teammates, she asked for their input, and they all voiced no objections. With their help, Grey Rose successfully traded 100 days of lifespan in exchange for the Icicle spell skill book from Shadow. Moments later, Lizzie rushed to Shadow after finding him. With confidence, she told him she'd give him one chance to power level her to level 3. Once they returned, she'd pay him 10 million in cash. Those who overheard were shocked. Just like that, 10 million earned. Shadow recognized Lizzie as Zhang Li in real life. In his past life, Zhang Li was the leader of a criminal syndicate that was eventually wiped out by the government. Reports said she used money to lure people into selling their lifespan, then kidnapped them for forced labor. Those who resisted were killed in reality. Shadow refused her offer. Lizzie then said he should stick with her and she'd make sure he lived in luxury. But Shadow told her to move aside if she wasn't buying. He knew cash was worthless. Soon, the only universal currency would be tradable lifespan. Insulted by the rejection, Lizzie said that if this were the real world, she'd teach him a lesson. With a serious look, Shadow warned her. If she said one more word, he'd kill her until her lifespan hit 0. Feeling Shadow's intense aura, everyone backed off. Lizzie and her comrades ran away. A few minutes later, Shadow sold everything and began wrapping up, planning to deal with the Curse Master next. No one knew yet. Tradable lifespan could extract skills into reality. No one knew. This forsaken game would soon plunge the real world into chaos. All those real-world backgrounds people once prided themselves on, soon, only personal strength would matter. After getting far away from Shadow, Lizzie noted to herself that once she returned to reality, she would make sure to kill him. Suddenly, a guy named Mao Lijun appeared and introduced himself to her. He said he knew some tricks for leveling up and asked if her 10 million offer still stood. Mao Lijun explained that he didn't usually share this with just anyone, but to show her sincerity, he'd make an exception. He told her that, right now, the most efficient way to level up was to put all 5 initial attribute points into agility. Doing so would make a full sprint just fast enough to outrun crawlers. Hearing this, Lizzie was surprised and regretted already putting her 5 points into strength. Still, she accepted Mao Lijun's offer because of his game knowledge and told him to take her to level up. Since he wasn't as strong as Shadow, Lizzie told him she could only offer 5 million. Mao Lijun agreed. Meanwhile, Shadow returned to the forest to face the monster boss. He took out the venom dart and struck one of its weak points, inflicting steady poison damage. With each passing second, the monster's health dropped. Agonized, the monster summoned an orb that randomly fired attacks across the area. The Curse Master was a mage-type boss. Most of its skills were area-based and dealt high damage. Shadow focused on evasion, waiting for his stealth cooldown to reset before launching attacks during brief lulls in the boss's assault. Each time, he immediately reactivated stealth to retreat beyond its attack range. Seizing the right moment, Shadow struck again, delivering heavy damage that forced the monster to try and flee. But he didn't give it the chance. He finished it off with a final blow. After killing the Curse Master, Shadow gained enough experience to reach level 5. He was stunned. 2 level ups and 4 evolution points. He activated the Greedy Hand skill and received the bonus reward twice. The Silver Tier boss granted him 12 evolution points and 372 days of tradable lifespan. Thanks to Greedy Hand's extra effect, one loot item was upgraded from Silver Tier to Gold Tier. The boss dropped 8 pieces of equipment, but Shadow's backpack only had 10 slots. He couldn't afford to keep running back after every boss kill. It was a huge waste of time. He hoped the Curse Master had dropped a storage ring or something similar to expand his inventory. Meanwhile, in town, Wang Meng and his comrades celebrated reaching level 3 and making it back safely. Moments later, the leaderboard updated. Shadow had reached level 5. Everyone was stunned to see him jump straight from level 3 to level 5. They wondered if he had killed some insanely powerful boss. One of them, frustrated, complained that they had just hit level 3 and questioned how they were supposed to keep up. But Wang Meng told them not to dwell on it and advised them to return to reality and inform their families and friends about the God-forsaken game. They agreed and began logging off. After logging out, Wang Meng woke up in bed. His comrades said they were worried when they saw his body turn semi-transparent. Wang Meng immediately told everyone to gather. Something major was happening. Wang Meng reported to his superior that he had formed a party of hidden professions but was almost completely wiped out, until they were saved by someone using the alias, Shadow. Wang Meng explained that when Shadow rescued them, he was only level 3. However, by the time Wang Meng and his team reached level 3 themselves, Shadow had already jumped to level 5. Wang Meng's superior wondered how Shadow had managed such a leap. Wang Meng speculated that he might have killed a boss or something similarly powerful. Based on the timeline, Shadow was already level 3 an hour ago, which led them to question why he hadn't returned to reality yet. Wang Meng replied that he didn't know. Maybe Shadow had no family in the real world to notify. The information Wang Meng provided about the God-forsaken game matched what the higher-ups had discovered. New investigations revealed that several older individuals had died shortly after falling asleep. After gathering and comparing data from those who returned to reality, it was confirmed that these people had died multiple times in the game. This meant that if your lifespan reached 0 in the game, you would truly die in reality. They suspected that some unknown force was invading their world. As a result, the higher-ups issued an emergency directive. Local advance teams must be formed to explore the game and share intel. A professional army would be assembled as quickly as possible. They believed that falling behind in this new domain would mean losing global influence, so they resolved to obtain information at all costs. Anyu was assigned as the captain of Team 1, with Wang Meng as the vice-captain. Both were given the authority to choose their own teammates. Based on Wang Meng's description, Shadow didn't seem to have a bad character, so they were encouraged to try and befriend him. Their superior specifically chose Anyu as captain because he believed her personality was best suited for investigating Shadow. He hoped the two of them could uncover Shadow's true identity as soon as possible. Ideally, they would establish cooperation with him as official representatives and gain access to all the information he held. At school, Xiaoyu's classmates were talking about the God-forsaken game, while she sat silently, staring at her phone. Something this major had happened, yet there wasn't a single reaction from Qin Feng. He hadn't even come to apologize. Xiaoyu wondered, was Feng really this arrogant? Every time Feng got angry at her before, he'd always find a way to make peace. But today, not only did he ignore her, he even hit her, something her own parents had never done. All she did was skip class to attend Song Fei's concert. Why would Feng react like that? Xiaoyu clenched her phone. If Feng didn't apologize, she would never forgive him. Xiaoyu was glad she had gone to see Song Fei yesterday. With the arrival of the God-forsaken game, she felt she probably wouldn't get another chance. Just remembering how close she had been to Song Fei, her tears began to fall. She missed him so much. Then a thought struck her. If people entered the game when they slept, then Song Fei must be inside too. If she entered the game, she could find him. She then remembered Zhang Wei, who had reached level 3 so quickly. He must be an expert, so she decided to ask him for advice. Zhang Wei soon received a message from Xiaoyu asking if he had any tips to share. Seeing this as his chance to get closer to her, Zhang Wei replied, advising her to put all her attribute points into agility, even for a magic-type class, claiming it would boost her casting speed. He added that she didn't need to worry, because he would find her and carry her to the sky. Xiao Yu then prepared to sleep and enter the game, thinking about Feng's arrogance. She made a mental note. She wouldn't carry him to level up. Meanwhile, inside the game, Feng, known as Shadow, had obtained a curse ring that granted +8 to all attributes. On top of that, it provided dark element resistance, which was especially useful against many types of monsters. He had also acquired a powerful area of effect skill that not only teleported him but also turned him invisible. With some evolution points remaining, he chose to evolve Greedy Hand, upgrading it from Jade to Diamond tier. As expected, killing mobs now granted him 2 loot drops, making each kill as valuable as 3. He then used his remaining evolution points to raise instant Shadow Slash by 3 tiers. While the cooldown time remained the same, the skill now allowed him to chain invisibility indefinitely. Moments later, level 4 limb crawlers appeared and launched an attack. It was the perfect chance to test instant Shadow Slash. In a blur, he wiped them out with ease. At present, he had 618 days of tradable lifespan, but to bring equipment and skills into reality, he needed at least 900 days. He decided to return and sell everything in his inventory, hoping it would be enough to hit the required threshold. Once he reached level 10, he'd finally be able to carry his skills and gear from the game into the real world. While Shadow was walking, he overheard Mao Lijun congratulating Lizzie on reaching level 3. Lizzie then gave her contact number to Lijun so she could transfer his payment once they returned to reality. She also instructed him to sell her any tradable lifespan he had, offering 10,000 per day. Lijun agreed with a laugh, mocking Shadow for not taking a big boss like Lizzie seriously. In his mind, Lijun smugly noted that he could farm lifespan anytime he wanted, and that only people like him, who converted gaming abilities into real-world money, were true geniuses. Meanwhile, Shadow activated the teleportation formation in Shell Town. Players could teleport once per day for free. Any additional teleportations would consume tradable lifespan. The teleportation formation in the beginner town was two-way. Activating one side wasn't enough. Someone from another town also had to reach level 5 and activate their formation to enable teleportation between locations. In Feng's previous life, he had set up an alert to notify him the moment someone activated Firefly Town's teleportation formation. But teleporting between towns wasn't the real priority. The main goal was to reach level 10 and then head to the God's Abandoned Realm, because that's where the God-Forsaken game truly began. Upon arriving in town, Shadow began selling equipment and skills, but only for 10 seconds. Some players had prepared 150 days of tradable lifespan, waiting for his next sale. The last time Shadow sold an item, it was the Icicle spell, which helped Gray shoot up to second place on the ranking list. One player bought a Battle Roar skill book for warriors in exchange for 300 days of tradable lifespan. In just 1 minute, Shadow sold everything. He earned 650 days this time, bringing his total to 2,174 days. But it still wasn't enough. If he wanted to bring all his equipment and skills into reality, he was still far from the goal. Suddenly, a girl approached him and said she had a treasure he might be interested in. She showed him a space ring, an item that offered 12 inventory slots without occupying either a ring slot or a backpack slot. Shadow was stunned. Although theoretically any monster could drop it, the drop rate was unbelievably low. In the past, a 12-slot space ring like this could sell for 3,600 days of tradable lifespan. But the girl told Shadow she didn't want his lifespan. She only wanted to add him as a friend and invite him to join their party to take down a boss. Shadow agreed and asked for details about the boss monster. The girl replied that it was a gold-tier boss located on a tattered-looking boat in a swamp. Shadow immediately recognized it. It was the Golden Ghost Ship, a rare and special boss. Its spawn rate was extremely low, but it dropped valuable and unique equipment. To encounter the Golden Ghost Ship in a beginner village, receive a rare storage ring, and also be a member of Wang Meng's party. Shadow began to suspect this girl was the rumored koi fish from his past life. He asked how she had found the gold-tier boss. The girl explained that while waiting for her party to level up, she had gone for a stroll and accidentally spotted the boss below a cliff. In Feng's past life, there were rumors that someone in Wang Meng's party had a koi fish physique, a mysterious trait that caused rare bosses, treasure chests, underground palaces, and temples to appear just by wandering around. Shadow had always assumed it was a cover story to protect hidden information. He hadn't expected it to be real. As Shadow and the girl left town, a bald man hid nearby, secretly observing them. He quickly reported to his boss that Shadow had taken a girl out of town. The boss smirked, thinking Shadow was just a young brat who couldn't resist a girl for long. He then told his men to follow him. While walking, Shadow told the girl that if the boss dropped any equipment or skill books she could use, he would give them to her. The rest would belong to him. The girl agreed but requested that if any equipment dropped for her captain, Wang Meng, or the others, Shadow should sell it to them at a discount. Shadow accepted the request and told her there was no need to wait for her captain to come online. They would go fight the gold-tier boss right away. Hearing that made the girl nervous. While she knew Shadow could turn invisible, she couldn't tank any of the boss's attacks if it targeted her. But Shadow reassured her, saying she could simply stay somewhere safe and watch. In the girl's mind, even though she knew Shadow was strong, the idea of one person soloing a gold-tier boss still seemed completely absurd. Moments later, Shadow used his skill to turn invisible. The guys following them assumed he had tricked the girl and abandoned her in the wild. Seeing an opportunity, they decided to capture her and have some fun first. Too bad for them. Shadow was just waiting to ambush. As they got closer, he used his skill to eliminate all of them instantly. After killing 5 players, he received a total of 12 tradable lifespan. He then returned to the girl and explained that a few people had been following them, so he sent them back to town. Meanwhile, in town, Xiao Yu finally entered the game. People around her noticed the arrival of a new player. She was pleased to have obtained the hidden class sacrifice and believed it would be worthy of Song Fei. She also wondered where Qin Feng had gone, thinking he couldn't be relied on. Still, she wasn't worried. She had a hidden class, and Zhang Wei had promised to help her level up. She then noticed the leaderboard and saw that the top-ranked player, Shadow, was already level 6. Since Zhang Wei was only level 3, Xiao Yu thought Shadow must be a real expert. She decided to find him and stick with him. Soon after, she spotted Wang Meng's party and overheard them discussing their need for a healer. Xiao Yu approached and asked if they needed one, adding that she had the hidden class life sacrifice. Meanwhile, Shadow and the girl arrived at the location of the golden ghost ship. Shadow advised the girl to hide and be cautious of ambushes while he went to deal with the boss. He descended into the monster's territory, and due to the influence of the ghost ship, the area had become a violent domain, meaning the rate of lifespan loss was increased 100-fold. A special gold tier level 5 boss, Golden Ghost Ship. There's a time limit for special bosses like this, but fortunately, 45 minutes remain, which is more than enough to kill it. Shadow used various skills to inflict damage on the monster. To eliminate the Golden Ghost Ship, there are a few challenging aspects. First, many players don't know its weakness. The real weak point is the Ghostfire bell at the tip of the ship. Second, when its weakness is attacked, it controls the surrounding water and unleashes a massive AoE attack. This water pillar deals abnormally high damage, but thankfully, Shadow's class has high starting agility. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to dodge it. Third, after the AoE attack, the boss summons 12 decaying water ghosts, each with the strength of a silver tier monster. The Golden Ghost Ship spawns one every 3 minutes. However, since Shadow has remained invisible from the start, they can't detect him. He just needs to find the right angle, and destroy them all at once. The girl watching Shadow was amazed by how the top-ranked expert dominated the fight against the gold-tier boss. Suddenly, Shadow called out to her, referring to her as Little Black, and said that he would die soon. He added that she didn't need to do anything, just wait for him to revive. The girl questioned him, confused, since it seemed like Shadow had the upper hand. She also corrected him, saying her name was Black Plum Big Plum, not Little Black. Meanwhile, the group of players previously killed by Shadow had returned with reinforcements. One of them reported to his boss that he saw the girl standing on a cliff just ahead, while Shadow was fighting the boss alone down below. The fourth challenging point, and the most difficult to deal with, is that at half health, the Golden Ghost Ship unleashes a massive AoE soul surge. Shadow becomes immobilized for 5 seconds, making it impossible for him to dodge. And so, he died, losing 326 years of untradeable lifespan and 1,087 days of tradable lifespan. The group who witnessed Shadow's death laughed, thinking he was arrogant for challenging a gold-tier boss alone. They were thrilled to discover that Shadow was actually wealthy after seeing his large lifespan orb. containing at least 100 days. Seeing that the boss had only half its health left, they rushed in, eager to finish it off. They were overjoyed at the thought of claiming such a huge lifespan at the same time. But suddenly, multiple lights appeared from above, leaving them stunned and wondering what was happening. The group was teleported back to town, wondering why the boss was so powerful and how Shadow had managed to bring it down to half health. They had just entered the swamp and were instantly killed by a water pillar. Meanwhile, Shadow returned to the area and asked Little Black why there were so many lifespan light orbs. Little Black explained that a group of people had noisily charged in but were wiped out by the water column. In Feng's previous life, he remembered suffering greatly because of this ghost ship as well. The golden ghost ship only uses its immobilization skill once. The rest of its health is easy to deal with. When it takes damage while below half health, there's a fixed chance it will disappear and reappear far away. Normal players find it difficult to kill. But Shadow had long seen through its movement patterns. Moments later, the group returned to the spot and saw Shadow fighting the boss again. They planned to find an opportunity to take down both Shadow and the monster. Little Black noticed them, and since Shadow was about to kill the boss, she couldn't let them interfere. She cast a spell and attacked the group to stop them. Enraged, they turned their attention to her, prompting her to flee and call for help. Meanwhile, another group had been hiding nearby, quietly observing the situation. At the same time, the golden ghost ship was nearly dead from Shadow's relentless attacks. Shadow thought the battle had taken too long and attracted too many spectators. He was aware of a group watching from the cliff and another by the swamp, clearly waiting for him to kill the boss so they could kill him and steal the loot. After defeating the golden ghost ship, Shadow leveled up to level 8, and the system announced that he was the first player on the server to kill a gold-grade boss. Players in town were shocked, wondering why the gap between Shadow and everyone else was so vast. Meanwhile, Xiaoyu was simply thinking about getting Shadow to carry her so she could see Song Fei. After killing the monster boss, it dropped a large amount of loot, but Shadow suddenly went invisible and didn't pick any of it up. The group that had been hiding assumed he was being cautious. One of them used his Phantom Horned Eagle skill to locate Shadow, planning to kill him and take the gold boss loot for themselves. Shadow hadn't expected someone to learn an anti-invisibility skill so quickly, but fortunately, his assassin class granted +1 invisibility level, and a level 1 detection skill couldn't break it. Since they couldn't find Shadow, they assumed he had fled after seeing how many of them there were. They decided to guard the loot, knowing that the boss loot would become free for all after 5 minutes. Unfortunately for them, Shadow eliminated all of them instantly. Before collecting the loot, Shadow used his evolution points to upgrade the greedy hand. As a result, extra loot now had a 100% chance to be 1 tier higher. He then gathered all the light orbs and compressed them, obtaining 2 Ghostfire bells. When equipped, this item prevents lifespan loss upon death and increases lifespan drops from monsters by 20%. Equipping 2 causes the effect to double. While examining the item, Shadow suddenly heard Little Black's voice calling for help. Little Black reached the edge of the cliff with nowhere left to escape. Without hesitation, she jumped, slamming her back against the ground. Her pursuers were shocked that she actually jumped, thinking she was surprisingly resolute. Little Black then told Shadow there was no need to save her anymore. She had already died and returned to town. Shadow replied that she should wait for him there, and he'd pass the items to her. Shadow's tradable lifespan had reached 3,115 days, and he had 21 evolution points. He attempted to evolve Greedy Hand, but the system notified him that it had already reached epic tier and would now require 10 times the evolution points to evolve further. Because of this, Shadow chose to improve his offensive skills instead, aiming to take on stronger bosses and earn better loot. After evolving Instant Shadow Slash twice, its damage doubled. Even without stealth, he could deal 3,000 damage, and a backstab could deliver up to 7,000 damage across 7 slashes. Additionally, gold tier bosses now dropped 11 gold items and skill books, 2 platinum equipment, and 1 platinum skill book, thanks to Greedy Hand. 3 of those items were suitable for assassin types. Not bad, though the effect wasn't particularly useful since he usually relied on skills for damage. However, his weapon's high base attack, combined with increased attack speed, helped reduce skill recovery time and boosted casting speed, making it not entirely useless. Leveling up hadn't increased his constitution yet. His current health was only 350, but the Ghostfire leather armor directly added 419 HP. When he wore it, most players could no longer even break through his defense. He then made his defensive gear invisible and switched to the default appearance of the assassin class. This way, others couldn't judge his equipment by sight. They would need to use the game interface to check. There was also a skill book, an assassin survival skill. He remembered it being considered weak, mainly because increasing dodge rate in this game was difficult. Investing in dodge meant sacrificing other attributes, and if the dodge failed to trigger, it could be fatal. But he was different. He could evolve skills infinitely. Raising his dodge rate wouldn't cost him other stats, only benefits awaited him. It was time to return. The remaining loot consisted of warrior, priest, and archer items. Shadow planned to sell them to Wang Meng at a 10% discount. Although Wang Meng couldn't afford them now, Shadow knew he could trust him. Given his personality, selling on credit wouldn't be an issue. Shadow was truly grateful to Little Black for the major upgrade and for discovering a level 5 golden ghost ship to attack. On his way back, Shadow crossed paths with the group of players who had been chasing Little Black. The group was stunned at the sight of him and immediately fled for their lives. But Shadow didn't let them escape, he eliminated them all. One of them begged for mercy, but Shadow asked if he had considered his own fate when he attacked others. Then, he finished him off. Having killed too many players, Shadow received one layer of the killer status. At the first layer, 75% of current lifespan would be lost upon death. But Shadow wasn't worried, he had the Ghostfire Bell. Even if he died once by mistake, he wouldn't lose any lifespan. People in town were surprised to see Shadow return after killing a gold-tier boss. Some wondered why he wasn't wearing any equipment, while others assumed he must have exploited a bug to solo the boss, so it didn't drop anything. One player approached Shadow and offered him an assassin skill book they had purchased using their lifespan, as an apology. Shadow accepted both the skill book and the apology, then left without a word. Some were annoyed. Despite being killed by Shadow, they still had to give him a skill book. They grumbled that it was far too cowardly. But their leader, Xian Xiao, explained that Shadow was growing at an alarming rate. He was leveling up alone and clearly had some huge secret. Xian Xiao believed that if they could find Shadow in real life and kidnap him, they could uncover that secret, and even force him to become their slave to farm lifespan for them. His comrades smiled and praised the plan. Based on Shadow's voice, they figured he must be a poor guy, so they planned to use a professional beauty to lure him into their trap. After reuniting with Little Black, Shadow traded with her to hand over some items. She was amazed by what she received. It instantly boosted her power significantly. In return, Little Black took out the space ring and gave it to Shadow as they had agreed. She then told him that while escaping through the forest earlier, she discovered an underground cave that looked like the entrance to a ruin. In Shadow's mind, he thought it was truly worthwhile becoming friends with her. Sincerity is mutual. If he hadn't given her 2 pieces of gold equipment, she might not have shared this information. Shadow then looked for Wang Meng and explained that after selling the remaining items, he would check out the ruins Little Black mentioned. Little Black replied that her captain Wang Meng and the others had gone to train the new priest and wouldn't be back anytime soon. She added that she had already marked the entrance to the ruins on the map and shared all the details she had seen and heard while hiding inside. After listening to her explanation, Shadow said he would head to the ruins immediately and trade with Wang Meng once he returned. Originally, Shadow had planned to grind until level 10, but now that there was a ruin, there was no need. There are typically 3 types of ruins that appear near beginner towns: tombs, cursed ruins, and temples of faith. Regardless of the type, the minor mobs are usually bronze tier, with a chance of silver tier monsters as well. To Shadow, they were a sea of lifespan and evolution points. Shadow arrived at the location of the hidden ruin and entered. There are mainly 3 types of ruins that appear in a beginner's town: tombs, cursed ruins, and temples of faith. There's not much to say about tombs. They're inhabited by hordes of monsters and are extremely difficult to clear. Monsters in cursed ruins are afflicted by ancient and evil gods. Some were once human but have either gone mad or become ghosts after death. Monsters in temples are all followers of ancient or evil gods, and the layout of these temples is often complex. Successfully clearing either of the latter 2 rewards the player with a special item or a skill book. Upon seeing the murals on the wall, Shadow recognized the place. It was a temple of faith. Specifically, the faith temple of the ancient god of judgment. It shared the same origin as his Eye of Judgment. Meanwhile, Wang Meng was trying to defend himself from a monster, but the attack was too powerful to block. He was injured and sent flying. His ally quickly ordered Xiaoyu to cast a heal, but she didn't move. Frustrated, the ally shouted, asking what she was standing there for. Xiaoyu responded nervously, unsure how to do it. Suddenly, the monster leapt toward them, ready to strike, and they yelled for Xiaoyu to use her skill. But she was too terrified, she covered her face and dropped her staff. As a result, Wang Meng and his team were wiped out and respawned in town with angry expressions. Moments later, Little Black saw them and asked why they were back so early. She also mentioned that Shadow hadn't returned yet, so they couldn't buy the equipment. One of them, clearly upset, pointed at Xiaoyu and said he'd never seen anyone so stupid, demanding to know what she even knew. Little Black defended her, saying Xiaoyu was obviously a beginner and that it was her first time playing, it's normal to die once. But another teammate argued that they didn't just die once, they died 3 times in under an hour. With confidence, Little Black said she believed they wouldn't die again now that she was joining, since she had just received 2 powerful items from Shadow. Wang Meng agreed, saying things should go more smoothly with her on the team. Xiaoyu apologized and promised to do better, but in her mind, she was angry. If not for their connection to Shadow, she wouldn't even be there. Meanwhile, inside the hidden ruin, Shadow encountered devout followers of the ancient god, the Judged, level 10 silver tier monsters. He immediately used his instant Shadow Slash skill to attack, but to his surprise, the monsters only lost a small portion of their health. As expected of level 10 silver bosses, the combined HP of the 2 followers was already greater than that of the gold tier golden ghost ship. Shadow was surprised when the monsters knelt in his direction again, even though he was still in stealth. He wondered if they sensed the Eye of Judgment on him and chose not to attack. He then asked them to guide him if they knew the way. Suddenly, the 2 monsters ran toward the entrance, having spotted intruders. The group tried to escape but failed, killed instantly by the monster's attack. It was the team of the girl who had bought the Ice Spike skill book from Shadow, a group called Grey Rose. Shadow hadn't expected them to find this ruin too. Upon checking the orbs, he was shocked to discover that the wiped-out group had dropped over 100 days' worth of tradable lifespan. He hadn't expected them to be that rich. After searching around, Shadow found nothing. No traps, no treasures. He wondered if there were really only 2 silver mini-bosses, but he quickly brushed the thought aside and killed the 2 devout followers of the ancient god, the Judged, earning multiple rewards. Shadow then activated his greedy hand skill and was amazed at how overpowered the epic tier ability truly was. At the moment, Shadow had 32 evolution points, 1,504 days of tradable lifespan, 4 gold tier items, 10 silver tier items, and even a gold tier assassin equipment, the Pendant of the Faithful. It granted +15 agility, 20% cooldown reduction, and a unique effect that summoned a silver tier devout follower to fight for the user. Grinding just got way more efficient for Shadow. Since all his other gear required level 8, and no one else could use it yet, he decided to hold onto the pendant for now and sell it later. Suddenly, a circle on the ground behind Shadow shifted. Something emerged, it was a kind of switch. Shadow figured that clearing all the monsters must have triggered the mechanism. Shadow stepped into the circle, and it began to descend. When it finally stopped, he felt like he had dropped 300 or 400 meters underground. He realized he was now inside the maze hidden beneath the temple. There's a certain chance for hidden mazes to appear within ruins, and he had explored many of them in his previous life. These mazes were filled with countless traps, but with people acting as cannon fodder, exploring them wasn't dangerous, just time-consuming. With his current attributes, however, triggering a single trap would be fatal. Fortunately, he had the Pendant of the Faithful. Shadow summoned the silver tier devout follower and ordered it to scout ahead. Exploring was much easier with a lackey leading the way. Still, there was always some risk, so he decided to evolve his dodge passive first, just in case. After the upgrade, his dodge rate jumped from 15% to a 75% passive dodge rate. He then used his remaining evolution points to upgrade instant Shadow Slash to epic tier. Since evolving from epic to legendary requires 10 times more points, starting from a higher tier is much more cost-effective. Meanwhile, the summoned devout follower stepped on something on the floor, triggering a trap. A massive boulder dropped from above and slammed into the summon, killing it instantly. Shadow would now have to wait for the cooldown before he could summon it again. Knowing how dangerous this maze was, he had no choice but to explore it slowly and carefully. Back at the upper level of the temple, Grey Rose's group returned. One of them informed their captain that he could confirm the two monsters they had seen earlier were gone, along with their lifespan orbs. They suspected someone had killed the monsters and taken the rewards. At this point, they believed only Shadow could have defeated two silver-tier bosses so easily. In Grey Rose's mind, she recalled seeing someone when they first arrived, someone who even seemed to be communicating with the monsters. She wondered if it had been Shadow, and if he possessed a skill that could charm or control bosses. Meanwhile, Shadow continued exploring the area using his summon. He had been at it for 3 hours and believed he was nearing the end of the maze. From his past life's experience, using human lives to explore a place like this would have cost at least hundreds. Once the cooldown ended, Shadow summoned the monster again and pressed forward until they reached a large door. He ordered his summon to open it, but the creature couldn't. Finding it strange, Shadow approached and touched the door, immediately sensing something. The door slowly began to open, releasing a wave of mana that forced him to step back. Beyond the doorway, he saw a thorn-covered chest and an NPC standing beside it. When he tried to check its details, all the information showed as question marks. It was his first time encountering such a mysterious NPC. Suddenly, the figure murmured something and slowly vanished. At the same time, the thorns around the chest disappeared. Although he couldn't identify the mysterious woman, Shadow suspected she was connected to the Eye of Judgment. The chest glowed with golden light, indicating it contained epic-tier items. Still, he remained cautious. There was always a chance it was a trap. He ordered his summon to open it. As the chest opened, a brilliant golden light burst forth. Inside, Shadow found a skill book, an assassin-exclusive god-tier skill with both passive and active effects. Bestowal of Mercy, an epic-tier assassin skill book. Its passive effect doubles the hitbox for enemy weak spots, and its active skill, Slit Throat, causes the next attack that deals at least 300 damage to inflict a debuff, 300 damage per second for 3 seconds. This loot was a huge harvest. Shadow's burst damage had now increased several times over. All thanks to Little Black. He planned to sell the leftover loot to her party, as he was now preparing to return to town. Upon arriving, Shadow was surprised to see a large crowd waiting for him. People from different towns had gathered, each offering him various deals in exchange for joining his party or being carried through content. Seeing this, Shadow realized that the teleportation gates from other towns had finally activated. He could now head to Song Fei's Firefly Town. Without hesitation, he activated his invisibility and vanished from the crowd's sight. Confused and frustrated, the crowd began blaming one another, each group thinking it was someone else's fault that Shadow had disappeared. Shadow went to see Little Black, who immediately called her captain, Wang Meng, to let him know Shadow had arrived. As they approached Wang Meng's team, Feng noticed Xiaoyu standing behind them. He wondered how she managed to join Wang Meng's party and thought they might end up getting wiped out because of her. Feng knew he had to be cautious. Now that the whole world knew Shadow existed, he couldn't afford to reveal his real identity. He still couldn't use his powers in real life, and with so many eyes on him, even a kitchen knife could kill him. Xiaoyu glanced at Shadow, thinking to herself that if he carried her, she could reunite with Song Fei in just a few days. Shadow opened his inventory and sold equipment tailored to Wang Meng's team's classes. The total value came to 2,200 days of tradable lifespan. Wang Meng couldn't afford it, so Shadow told him he could pay later. Grateful, Wang Meng thanked him and said that if Shadow ever needed them, they would do their best to help. Wang Meng and his comrades were overjoyed to receive gold-tier equipment and skills from Shadow, especially since he even let them buy on credit. Xiaoyu, expecting something for herself as well, stepped forward and told Shadow she was the party's priest, asking if there was any equipment for her. But Shadow only gave her a cold look before activating his invisibility and vanishing. Xiaoyu looked around, confused, wondering where Shadow had gone. Wang Meng assumed Shadow simply didn't get any priest drops this time, but the spiky-haired guy muttered that it looked more like Shadow had intentionally ignored her. In truth, Shadow did have a gold-tier priest staff and a priest skill book in his inventory. However, he had no intention of giving such rare items to Xiaoyu. As he progressed, he knew he'd end up with tons of unused equipment and skill books. Selling them one by one would be too time-consuming, but Wang Meng's connection to the authorities made his party ideal for bulk sales. He couldn't risk letting Xiaoyu interfere with that relationship. To maintain his cooperation with the authorities, he needed to find a replacement priest for Wang Meng's team, and that made him think of finding little Shui as soon as possible. Jiu Yi Shui, the former manager of the Godslayer Guild in Feng's past life, was a hidden priest class user, accompanied by a white bird that could heal and apply buffs. She was the only priest Feng knew who could solo epic tier bosses. She was a powerful ally. Compared to her, Xiaoyu was complete trash. Feng then recalled that little Shui was also from Firefly Town, just like Song Fei. He decided that if he could find her, he would place her in Wang Meng's team. Upon arriving at Firefly Town, Shadow overheard some frustrated players complaining about getting killed while fighting a silver tier boss. They also mentioned Song Fei, who had brought along a swarm of fangirls. Just like that, Shadow already had a lead on Song Fei's whereabouts. Shadow went to a level 5 area called Wailing Valley and heard some noises. He found several players fighting the twin-headed Ember Fiend, a silver tier boss, while others were attacking each other. He also saw Song Fei surrounded and guarded by his fangirls, as some players were trying to take revenge after being ambushed by him. One of them laughed, claiming he had the anti-mage skill, and told Song Fei that hiding behind his mage girls was useless. But shockingly, one of the mage girls smashed his face into the ground with her staff. Song Fei, known as the heaven-defying mage god, belonged to the mage class. In Feng's past life, Song Fei tricked a bunch of fangirls into choosing mage classes, then took all their equipment and skills to power himself up quickly. But a team couldn't consist of only mages, so his fangirls came up with a solution. Some allocated their attribute points to intelligence to become glass cannon mages, some to agility to become disruption mages, some to health to become meat shields, and others to strength to become battle mages who fought with their staffs. Early on, his team was extremely dominant, stealing lifespan from players across the map with no one able to resist them. Of course, as the game progressed, most of those fangirls died off pretty quickly.